Today, we have some insane stories that these people would never share with their parents in a million years. Sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing, and let's just jump right into the stories.
And we're crying, crying, crying like a wounded animal.
So we're going to call a subscriber who submitted the first story Jeb. So this is a great example of something you should not do before a family dinner or a family gathering. So anyways, Jeb, one weekend, had no idea that he had a family dinner tonight, right? So it was just like 3 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm not totally sure why Jeb is doing this at all, especially at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, but he decides that he is going to take a very special substance that makes you basically see flying colors and makes your brain go kaboomy. Some people will, it's not your standard adult thing that I normally will reference in videos. It is something that you might see maybe in chemistry class. You'll learn about like solids, acids, wink, wink. Okay, I think some of you guys know what I'm saying. If you don't, just imagine something that makes your brain go kaboomy. And I will never touch in a billion years because I'm a scared little boy. But anyways, Jeb decided that it would be a fantastic idea that he's just going to take some of this, I'm just going to call it, a periodic element. It's not, but that's in reference to chemistry or whatever. Look, he's deciding he's going to take the periodic element at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, because, like, why not? So he does, and he's just chilling in his room. He's trying to watch some kind of, like, movie, and the movie's, like, whatever, right? And that's when, at 4, it takes a while for the effects to hit him, but he's starting to feel the effects a little bit. He hears his mom walks up, and she's like, "Why aren't you dressed?" And he just looks at her, thinking like, "Oh no, like, it's already affecting me, man. My mom's speaking gibberish to me right now. At least that's what it seems like." But no, she was saying, "Why aren't you dressed?" And he looks at her, and she's like, "You didn't forget, right?" And Jeb is just looking at his mom with this look of just sheer confusion and a little bit of panic. A little bit of, "What are you saying?" Yeah, so she goes on to explain to him that, first of all, he should not have forgotten this, but second of all, that he needs to get dressed because they have family members coming over in 15 minutes. And Jeb is just like, what? What? Like, are you... It starts to, like, Jeb starts to feel, like, different things of emotions. He starts to feel like, okay, I can do this. It's not a big deal. And that slowly turns over into, I can't do this. This is a big deal. I'm going to panic. I'm going to freak out. But either way, eventually he kind of comes to the acceptance of what is, right? And sure enough, Jeb gets his, like, good clothes together. Apparently, they were not coordinated at all. Like, it was the most... It was not coordinated. Like, you could see, like, the colors were totally off, but it was fancier clothing, right? He dressed up. Even if it looked awful, he still dressed up. So he walked downstairs, and his mom just kind of gives him a look because he's kind of walking a little bit weird and he's dressed super strange. And all of his, like, some of his, like, family members are sitting down in the living room. So he goes down to sit down with them, and his mom's like, "All right, well, I'm going to go back into the kitchen. Jeb, like, just enjoy yourself down here. Make sure to talk to, whatever, right? Just, like, talk to your family members or whatever." So Jeb is sitting there, and his family member's like, "So, Jeb, how's it going?" And Jeb just bursts into laughter. Like, he doesn't know, he knows why. Let's not kid ourselves. We know why he's acting a little weird right now. But remember, nobody else does. So he just bursts into laughter when this guy says, "How's it going, Jeb?" And, like, Jeb's mom can hear the laughter from the kitchen and probably just assumes that, haha, Uncle Steve just said something really funny. But in reality, Uncle Steve just asked a normal question. And Jeb just could not stop laughing, so he had to excuse himself. And he's in the bathroom, and he's just staring at the mirror. And he's staring at the mirror, and that's when he hears a knock. His mom's like, "Jeb." And Jeb opens the door, and he's like, "What?" She's like, "You've been in there for 30 minutes. Jeb's like, "What?" Jeb had just been staring at the mirror. He had no idea that anything weird was happening. He was like, in his mind, he had literally just glanced into the mirror, but apparently he just got so absorbed, he's just staring at it for 30 minutes. So she's like, why are you being so weird?" And he's like, What? So he goes back, and it's finally dinner time. He sits down at the table, and once again, the same Uncle Steve or whatever is like, "So, Jeb, how's it going?" And Jeb's like, "Boop," because then he remembers. He remembers how funny he thought it was, and then he thinks about how funny it is that he thought that that was funny. So once again, he bursts out laughing, but his mom's at the table, and she gives him a death stare. Look, Jeb was not like perceiving things correctly, right? He had a lot of things going on in his brain, a lot of chemicals that were being released, and the neurons were firing, but they're firing all wrong. But one thing he did perceive correctly, and he still remembers to this day, is the look that his mom gave him. So his mom pulled him aside, and she's like, "Steve, or Jeb, can you help me in the kitchen?" Jeb's like, "Okay." Walks in the kitchen. She like takes him, like grabs him by the shirt. It's like, what is up? What is this? This is not normal. And Jeb just looks at her, and he's like, "What?" She's like, "Jeb, tell me, are you on anything right now?" Jeb's like, "No." She's like, "Prove it." He's like, "Okay." She's like, "Okay, walk in a straight line." The thing is, though, this was the wrong test. I think that Jeb's mom thought that he had, like, adult apple juice or something like that instead of some periodic element, because Jeb could walk around fine. It was just everything else that was funky, right? So he walked in a straight line, no problem. And Jeb's mom just looks at him. And instead of asking him to do anything cognitive, right? If she asked him to say, like, "What's your name, Jeb?" He would have been like, can I get another question? So, yeah, she didn't ask, thankfully for him, she didn't ask anything like a cognitive question, asking for, like, anything like that. So he got off the hook, believe it or not. Yeah, he went back to the dinner table. No one really asked him any more questions because they were kind of, like, sussed out or whatever. And Jeb, to this day, I think Jeb thinks his mom imagines that something was up. But to this day, he's never said anything to her about it. We're going to call the subscriber for the next story Steve. Yeah, I'm on a Minecraft theme. The names today, by the way, are Jeb, Steve, Alex, and Notch. So, Steve, we're going to call the subscriber. Steve's parents were going to leave for the weekend. Steve was a pretty chill kid who more or less followed the rules. I would say pretty similar to myself in that regard. And Steve's parents kind of expected him to not do anything. So they gave him a little talk, even though they thought it was almost a little bit unnecessary. They were like, "Hey, Steve, we don't expect you to do anything, but obviously, right, obviously, don't have anyone over, okay? Don't have a big party. Don't have anything crazy. Like, if you want to have, like, one friend over or something like that during the day, that's fine. We really don't care about that, but we don't expect you to have a party or anything, but just don't do that, okay?" And Steve looks at them and says, "Yeah, absolutely. Have fun. Have fun this weekend, Mom, Dad." They're like, "Okay, well, you're the man of the house now. Make sure it doesn't blow away. Ha ha ha." Insert dad joke or whatever, right? I like dad jokes. But anyways, so they drive off, and Steve feels a little bad that he just lied to his parents' face. Because Steve had known for a little while that his parents were going to go out for the weekend, he kind of planned that he was going to have a massive rager at his house. And you might be thinking, well, Connor, won't his neighbors say something? So Steve lived in like an area where all the houses were separated. It was like very rural. There was a lot of like, the neighbors weren't in eyesight, right? They weren't even in earshot. There was a lot of land and area in between all the houses. So as long as Steve made sure that the house didn't get wrecked, he would have been off the hook. So yeah, sure enough, that Friday night, because his parents got back like late Saturday night, that Friday night, all these people start showing up, right? All the people he used to go or he goes to school with, his friends that live kind of close, they're all showing up. It's very standard, crazy teenager party. By the way, I think it's obvious, but don't host these. If you want to go to them, I actually have no problem with that, as long as they're safe, right? But don't host these. It's no benefit to you. I know you're only going to destroy your house. I never did, and I'm not lying, even though my mom does watch my videos, and she's normally first like on the video, which is pretty cool. But no, I would never do this. I mean, I'd go to one, sure. I have no problem with that, but don't host these. Just a little piece of advice. But anyways, people show up. Steve is really excited. All these people are at his house. Life is good. things are good. Well, things were good. Because as the night went on, the amount of adult apple juice consumed went up as well. And with the adult apple juice being consumed going up, well, let's just say the people started to act a little bit crazier. People started to make a mess. Things started to get knocked over. Cans were dropped on the floor. The floor was sticky and gross. People were starting to, like, their stomachs were like, you had too much apple juice. We're sending it back up, right? We're sending it back to the chef. So people were throwing up everywhere, right? And people had no regard. That's the reason why I'm telling you don't host these things. People have no regard for your personal belongings or for the fact that they're in a different home. They just assume, oh, well, this isn't my home, so let me trash it up, baby. Yeah, so it was about 2 in the morning when everyone cleared out, more or less, and Steve was just left alone with a completely trashed house. And within 24 hours, he knew that his parents would be back. So immediately, Steve goes to bed, and he wakes up, he doesn't set an alarm, so he wakes up at 2 in the afternoon. His parents are going to be there in 6, which 4 hours sounds like a lot of time, but the amount of stuff that Steve has to clean up, 4 hours is not enough time. He would need like a whole day. So Steve immediately panics, and he goes straight into it to assess the damage. The damage is bad. He just grabs a trash bag. There are a ton of cans, right? A ton of stuff. He says that's the first thing he's doing. Going around, because if there's even one can, right, boom, it's over. But if there's like a spill or something happened, then he can be like, oh, I totally forgot to clean that up. That's my fault. I'm sorry. But if there's even one can that is visible, his whole shtick is over, right? So Steve is going around. He's grabbing all the cans or whatever, does that. It's 3. His parents are back at 6. 1 hour's gone by. He's going through. He walks into the bathroom. It is a disaster zone. It is terrible. And it's just not looking good for Steve. However, at 6:03, his parents are a little bit late. Steve has finally cleaned up the entire house when his parents pull into the driveway. It is like the best timing of all time. For now, Steve has put the trash bags full of, the cans under his bed. He can't just put them into the trash because if his parents looked in there, well, it'd be pretty obvious. Steve is just waiting for a good opportunity when his parents are gone for like an hour or something to take the trash cans and walk them down to like the dumpster that's like a 15-minute walk in his neighborhood, right? But his parents show up and they come inside. They're like, oh, Steve, how was it? Like, and he's like, oh, it's pretty good. And they're like, oh, did you have any friends over? He's like, no, it's just me. Let's watch some movies or something, whatever. And this is where Steve's heart starts to race. Beads of sweat start to form on his temple. Why is this, you might be asking? Well, it's because Steve notices behind his parents, sitting on the kitchen counter in plain sight, is a can, an empty can. And if they were to turn around and see this can, his whole shtick, it would be gone, be over. He'd be done for, guys. He'd be toast. So Steve is like, oh, I can get your bags. How about you guys just go upstairs? And they're like, oh, no, we got it. They both turn around in eyesight of the kitchen table. But somehow, they both don't notice the can. They walk outside to grab their bags. And Steve immediately grabs the can, puts it into his back pocket, which is kind of, I don't know. Now Steve can't turn around because he's got a can in his back pocket. His parents come back in and they're like, oh, can you bring these up? And Steve's like, yeah. He picks up the bags and starts walking backwards. And they're like, why are you walking backwards? He's like, haha, I don't know. I saw on the internet, it's like better for your back. Makes up some complete BS. He walks up to his parents' bedroom, puts the bags in, quickly walks into his room, takes the can out of his back pocket, and puts it under his bed. Weeks later, his parents leave again for a couple hours. He walks the trash bags out, completely, scene of the crime is good. To this day, Steve's parents have no idea. We're going to call the next subscriber Alex. See, we're on the Minecraft theme, but anyways, right? So, Alex had a girlfriend, and every single day, well, okay, maybe not every single day, but at least several times a week. So it could be every single day for a week, but very often, he snuck his girlfriend over into his house. His parents were not a fan of having a girlfriend, right? They were like, okay, they were okay with it a little bit, but they would be not okay at all with her coming over to the house, especially, and if for some reason, they just happened to, I don't know, hit their head and be like, oh, okay, yeah, she can come over. they would be watching her like a hawk watches a mouse scurry in a field, dude. They would be on top of her. They would be like, okay, guys, so you're both sitting on the couch. We have these dividers, and they had put in these like massive stone blocks. You guys cannot be within 8 feet of each other because that would be way too close of physical contact. And, oh, my boy is not having any physical contact with any girls ever. Maybe it wasn't that extreme, but you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so anyways, Alex decided the best idea, well, they came to the conclusion the best idea is she just sneaks over into his house because he lived in a 2-story house. However, his bedroom was on the first floor. So she would just, come in and sneak, and he was behind, right? He's behind the house. So she would just walk over, sneak through the neighbor's backyard, hop the fence, make sure that they weren't, in the kitchen because the kitchen had clear sight of the backyard, sneak in. Alex would have she would send, the text when she was, walking over. Alex would open up the window, she would climb in, and it would be all good, right? And the walls were pretty thick, and his parents lived on the second floor. So while they had to be aware that, normally Alex would be playing a pretty loud movie, just, in the background, so that if his parents were, walking by, they wouldn't hear, a female voice or something. Or if they did, he could always just chalk it up as a movie, right? So one day, when this was all happening, remember, Alex's parents, they never check on him. They never walk into his room. There's just no reason for them to do that, and they never do. However, there was, a super important thing that Alex's mom needed to talk about because there's, something scheduling. Not serious, but it was, important that he knows. So Alex and his girlfriend are just, sitting in his bed watching something, and that's when Alex hears a knock on the door, and Alex is like, what? Because his parents never do this. Better than them just entering, but they never, talk to him in his room. It's very rare. So Alex is, looks at his girlfriend. And his girlfriend looks at him back with these big, wide eyes. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment parent or parents, either one, down below. That'll be the secret word of the day. Leave a like on the video to claim your free nothing. Subscribe if you're new. Trying to get that gold play button. And let's get right back to it. So anyways, Alex and his girlfriend are just looking at each other. Like deers in a headlight. Caught. Not sure what to do. And Alex just looks around the room really quickly, and he looks at his closet. He looks at her, points at the closet. She knows exactly what Alex means. She gets up, she walks over quickly, goes in the closet, closes it behind her. Alex gets up, opens up the door, and he's like, hey, Mom, what's up? His mom walks into the room. And Alex is like, please don't open up the closet for no good reason. And Alex's mom is like, hey, I really need to talk to you about this. She goes on to tell him about, scheduling change, something along the lines of that, right? And Alex is like, yep, cool. Please don't open up the closet door. It's all I'm asking. Nice, cool, okay. And, Alex's mom starts, walking towards the closet. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I got you this, new tie. I thought I'd put in your closet, too. And Alex is like, oh, let me look at that. Takes the tie from her. Wow, I really like this. I'm actually going to put this aside so I can wear it tomorrow. Yeah, so Alex put it beside, because, thankfully, Alex lays out his clothes, the day before or the night before he wears them. And if he didn't do that, his mom would have been like, oh, let's put it in the closet for you. So, yeah, Alex's mom eventually gets up and leaves. Alex waits, 2 minutes and then eventually goes over to the closet, opens it, looks at his girlfriend, and is like, well, that was a close call. Yeah, so Alex and his girlfriend lasted for about 6 months, and then they just decided to split. Wasn't a messy split or anything, so no reason for me to tell the story. However, to this day, Alex's parents never knew about any of the times the fact that she snuck over, or the fact that she existed, actually. We're going to call the subscriber who submitted the last story Notch. I'm on the Minecraft theme, guys. Anyways, Notch got expelled from school, and his parents never knew. You might be thinking, how is this possible? Well, Notch got expelled right before it went onto Zoom. So he did something, and I don't know exactly what. It might have been a accumulation of a bunch of not so good things, or maybe a few bad things or whatever. For some reason, he got expelled. And he got expelled a week before they went on Zoom, but the whole process of getting expelled was all dragged out or whatever. And so by the time that Zoom classes came around, Alex was no longer enrolled in his high school. He was gone. He was done. And for some reason, right, his parents were just not contacted. I don't totally know how this worked out. I think in the like the whole, I think it's in like the I don't know, the whole 2020 disease. I'm not gonna say it specifically. Y'all already know what it is. It's just, I think YouTube would be mad. That whole like thing. I think it just like the school was so busy and transitioning over to Zoom and trying to figure out what's going on and what they can do. They were so busy with that they just, I think someone in the administration just forgot to send out the email to his parents, or just it got lost in translation somehow. And because Notch was waiting every day for his mom to walk in, super furious, whatever, and that never happened. And Notch started to realize that, oh, she doesn't even know. So Notch decided, okay, well, maybe she doesn't need to know. So he started to like go on his computer, and his mom would walk in and he'd be like, Mom, I'm on Zoom class. She says, oh, okay, that's fine. I'll be back. So he would be in his room for like 6, 8 hours a day, whatever, on Zoom class, which basically just meant he was just watching TV and stuff and whatever, right? And his mom never really knew. You might be thinking, okay, well, what about when he graduates? Isn't she going to have some questions then? And the thing was, Notch explained to her that they weren't having a graduation ceremony. It's like, oh, this is too much. It was too busy. And he went online and he faked all the documents with like, I don't know, Photoshop and stuff like that. He faked a graduation certificate and he showed it to his mom, and his mom and dad were like so proud of him or whatever. And he felt a little bad, but like also he's like, whatever. And yeah, so they believe to this day that he is a high school graduate. Alex actually got a job, no problem. Things were okay for him. Like, life's all good. You don't have to worry about him, man. And yeah, he said probably one day when he's like at a really successful job or whatever, that's when he'll tell his parents, oh yeah, by the way, I never graduated high school. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.